What's up, everybody? It's Artis Anderson here, your tail room leader. I hope you're feeling good because I'm feeling great. It is fellowship time, and it is Marriage and Relationship Talk Wednesday. Listen, we are on part 10, the conclusion of this teaching called Relationships Die Without This. The last 9 weeks have been eye-opening. The last 9 weeks have been really revealing in terms of how love is supposed to be integrated into our relationships and into our marriages. And we have really taken a deep dive into verses 4 through 7 of 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And so hopefully people have been impacted by this. I've gotten people have been commenting and asking questions, and that's a good thing because we want people to learn and grow. Relationships are one of those things that we have all encountered and experienced from the time we came into this world and will continue to until the time we leave this world. And so what we have to understand is that relationships become a very important dynamic of our entire life. So we might as well take the time to learn how to utilize them, how to function in them, how to grow in them, how to work through them so that we can be successful. So in conclusion on tonight, we're going to go through part 10, where we're going to talk about 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 6 and 7. And so let's jump right into it. I'm going to start off reading 1 Corinthians chapter 13, 4 through 6 in the Amplified. Remember, in the beginning of this teaching, I told you all relationships are a gift. Love is also a gift. And those two things intertwine, create a beautiful harmony so that we can exist and coexist in our world. And so what we've been doing is taking 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 7, and integrating it into our marriages and relationships from a DNA standpoint, making it a part of the DNA of the marriage, the DNA of the relationship. But more importantly, it must be a part of your DNA as an individual, DNA as an individual. And so let's jump right into it. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Okay, tonight is called Love Does Not Delight in Evil, but Rejoices in Truth. But the title that I put today was Making It Last Forever, because that's what we're going to get out of tonight's conclusion of this teaching on marriage and relationships. So 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4. Love endures with patience and serenity. Love is kind and thoughtful, and it is not jealous or envious. Love does not brag, and it is not proud or arrogant. We've covered all of that over the last 9 weeks. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking, meaning it's not selfish. Love is not provoked, nor overly sensitive or easily angered. We've covered that over the last 9 weeks. So if you have not watched any of these teachings on relationships die without love, go back to the YouTube and the Facebook. It's called Relationships Die Without This, part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Make sure you check that out. But tonight is part 10, the conclusion, where we're talking about making our relationships and our marriages last forever. So now let's look at verse 6. We finally come to the end of this series. Let's look at verse 6. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 6. Love does not rejoice at injustice, but rejoices with the truth. With the truth. When right and truth prevail. I'm reading the Amplified. So let's look at this in the New Living Translation. Verse 6. Love does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. So let's translate that, all right? God is love, people. God is love. Let's jump into it. Love embodies the substance of God. That's why we say God is love, right? God is love, and he is the substance, right, of love. Because God is love, true love cannot enjoy, it can't promote, nor can it delight in evil in any kind, okay? So because God is love, and because God is true, true love cannot enjoy or promote any wrongdoing or injustice. Why? Simply because it brings danger to the relationship and the marriage. It jeopardizes it. So let me just go down the road. Drug dealers. It puts your marriage and your family in danger. Why would you do that? I think they need you more than they need the money. I think they need you more than you need your ego. See, what we have to understand is true love cannot delight in evil of any kind. Why? Because it damages and brings danger to the marriage and the relationship, and it brings danger to the home. So anything or being involved, anything drug related, crime related, illegal, that puts your family in jeopardy and danger. Love doesn't do that. Love does not put your marriage in danger. Love doesn't put your marriage and your family and your relationship in danger for the sake of money. So illegal activity, just to make money, to provide, I understand it's difficult, but there's better ways, because it doesn't make sense to put your family in danger like that. It doesn't make sense to put your family in jeopardy. What else does this mean? It does not enjoy any wrongdoing. Cheaters. Why would you put your marriage in jeopardy? People who love to step out on their relationships and their marriages. Why would you put it in jeopardy? Why would you endanger it? Aren't you trying to build something powerful and long-lasting and something that brings joy and peace and harmony? Why would you put that in danger? Love does not rejoice in injustice, but it enjoys when the truth wins out. That translation means love doesn't enjoy anything evil. Cheating is evil. Infidelity is evil. Drug dealing is evil. Crimes, illegal. That's evil. Money schemes, illegal money schemes. Like all of these different dynamics put the marriage and the family in danger. Love is a protector. Love is a provider. Love is a provider. So hence what I just talked about. You can't, how you gonna provide in jail? How you gonna provide dead? Now your marriage, your spouse, your family, your kids, all of it has to suffer. Love is a protector, a provider, is a guardian, it's a director. It safeguards your marriage. It safeguards your relationships. And as usual, make sure y'all, feel free to ask questions at any time. God is the creator of marriage. God is the sustainer of marriage. God is the substance of marriage. He is the one who decided relationship was important and valuable to us. And because God is love and because God is truth, true love finds joy in truth. True love will find joy in truth. So in your marriage and in your relationships, you're always seeking out truth, honesty. I'm a firm believer that God is truth, which means Jesus is truth also. Marriage must find its roots and foundations and stability in truth. I'm going to say that again. Marriage must find its roots. Roots are the thing that holds it steady, that gives it a foundation. Marriage must find its roots, and relationships must find its roots and foundations and stability in truth. And God is that truth. Your marriage and relationship must be built on the right foundations. And that right foundation is truth. And that truth is God. God is the true Father. Jesus is the truth. He's the true Son. Jesus says he is the way, the truth, and the life. So what we have to understand is that because God is true and his Son is true, our marriages and our relationships must be built on that. The reason why we see so much divorce and destruction and chaos and toxicity and impure behavior in our marriages and our relationships is because God is not the real foundation. And the reason why God is not the real foundation is because the individual is not truly rooted in God. Remember, the marriage will only have what the two people bring to it. If two people do not bring God into the marriage, you won't have God into the marriage or the relationship. So it really goes back to the individual. So we will be wise to build our relationships and marriages on the foundations of God through the words of Jesus, which are truth. And then we will see our marriages and our relationships last forever. And then we'll see less toxicity in our marriages and our relationships. Then we will see less destruction, less divorce, less abuse, less verbal abuse, less physical abuse. We will see more unity. We will see more life in our families, in our homes. We often see continuously in scripture that God shows us the fabric and the intertwining of marriage between Jesus and humanity. And that's what makes marriage such a beautiful thing, especially in Ephesians chapter 5. Go to that real quick. Go to Ephesians chapter 5. Ephesians chapter 5, I want to show y'all one of the examples of the intertwining of Jesus and humanity as it pertains to marriage. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21. These are very important principles for us to take and apply to our marriages and our relationships. Verse 21, and further, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. So here we have an equality of submission between the husband and the wife. That's a very powerful thing when two people can submit unto one another, when two people can be humble amongst one another, when two people can share a life together, humbly together, submitted to one another, understanding that each person has a strength and each person has weakness, understanding how to mesh it together, how to flow together. That's a powerful thing. That's the first intertwining we see. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. You're both submitting under Christ out of reverence. It's humility on both sides. And then when we look at verse 23, right? What we see is, if we go back to verse 22, for wives, this means submit to your husbands as to the Lord. So now we have another dynamic, right? Submit to your husband as to the Lord. So now there's another contrast between the marriage in Christ, who is our Lord. Verse 23, for a husband is the head of his wife, as Christ is the head of the church. So we see another intertwining there. He is the savior of his body, the church. Okay. And then when we go down to verse 25, let's see what else we see. We see for husbands, this means love your wives just as Christ loved the church. So now the men have a distinct instruction to love his wife the way Christ has loved him and humanity. So we see that intertwining. We see in verse 29, no one hates his own body, but feeds and cares for it, just as Christ cares for the church. So we see more intertwining of Christ and humanity. Christ takes care of his people, the church. So husbands must take care of his wife as his body. Okay. Verse 32, this is a great mystery, but it is an illustration of the way Christ and the church are one. So we see another illustration of Christ and the church, which is the people becoming one. So in our marriages, there's submission, there's respect, there's love, there's care for one another, and the two become one. These are very important principles, very important factors as it pertains to marriage that allows a marriage to last forever, that allows a relationship to last to the point to where you finally reach the marriage point and then make that last forever. Let's look at Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, starting at verse 9. As you're starting a marriage and building a marriage, we see some very important intertwining factors in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 12. Verse 9, two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. How do you make it last forever? You help each other, not compete with each other, not complain about each other, not fight each other, not yell at each other, but you help each other. You need to humble yourself to recognize that you need help. And sometimes you're not going to know what you're weak at, so your spouse is going to make sure you know. Verse 10, if a person falls, the other can reach out and help. So here we are again, help. Helping each other. How do you make it last forever? Be willing to humble yourself so that you can be helped. Be willing to open your mouth and ask for help. That's the whole reason they're there, for help. Help, okay? But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. That's what the verse says. Let's look at verse 11. Likewise, two people lying close together can keep each other warm, but how can one be warm alone? Verse 12, a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated. See, you can be in a marriage and a relationship and still act as if you're alone and allow danger and attacks and defeat to come into your marriage because you're not humbling yourself. There's too much pride going on. Too much pride, too much ego, too many feelings. The rest of the verse says, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. See, that's the God factor coming in. God and you two together, it's not easily broken. Let's look at Matthew chapter 7. If Jesus is the truth, why not build your marriage on what he says? I think that would be wise. Let's look at what he tells us. Matthew 7, verse 24. Anyone who listens to my teachings and follows it is wise, like a person who builds a house on solid rock. Do you want to build your marriage or your relationship on sand or solid rock? If you want to build it on rock, you need to build it on what Jesus tells you. The way he tells you to live, the way he tells you to talk, the way he tells you to walk, the way he tells you to interact with people, the way he tells you to forgive and be humble and lower yourself and give and be willing to forgive. All these different dynamics. This is how you make it last forever. It allows you to be cooperative. It allows you to be unified. It allows you not to wrestle with everything, not to fight over everything. It's okay to have differences of opinion. You don't have to talk about that. Eat your dinner and watch some Netflix. Stop it. There's times where my wife is talking. Gotta be careful. Forgot this is recorded. There's times when my wife is talking, and she might say something. I'm like, I have a difference of opinion. I don't have to share that all the time. It's okay for me to just take in what she's saying. It's okay. And once she finishes, we're going to finish watching Netflix or finish doing whatever we're doing. It's okay to have differences of opinion. It's okay to have differences how you want to do things. It's okay. You don't have to argue about it. You don't have to fight and claw to get your way all the time. Let the other person get their way sometime. It don't always got to be your way. Now, ladies, I want to give you a harsh reality that you don't want to hear sometimes. A lot of times, we like to deem men as controlling. But I want to present to you that we have to be open to the idea that women are just as controlling as men. How do you behave when you want things done a certain way if it doesn't happen? If he don't do what you want him to do, if he don't go or talk to who you want him to talk to and go with, we have to start looking at our society and our culture from a wide lens view and see that there's some double standards on the men's side, some double standards on the woman's side that's creating friction in our own marriages and relationships because of what society is brainwashing us with, preventing us from allowing relationships and marriage to last forever. We have to take these things into account. Women are just as abusive as men. See, these are factors we have to start dealing with. Men, y'all, once we start dealing with the reality of what's going on in our world as it pertains to our culture and society, then we can start approaching our relationships and marriages with truth. Then we can start dealing with some things, because men have taken bullets and men have taken beatings for years. Some of it is rightly so. Some of it, rightly so. A lot of it, rightly so. But women have gotten away with doing the same thing and it not being brought to the light. And there's things that women have done over the years that they have caught flack for that men have done also, but has gone swept under the rug because of the double standards with men. It goes both ways. There are things we have to address in our culture and society so that we can get to the truth. And if we can eradicate that negative stigma that we have in our communities as far as marriage, relationships, men and women, and get to the things that Jesus teaches us to do, forgive and love and honor each other, respect each other, take care of each other, be one with one another, all these different factors, then we'll start to see more marriages last forever, especially in the communities where the rates are very, very low. We see that if a marriage is built on God's foundation and what Jesus said, if and when that marriage goes through any type of storm or trouble, it will stand firm. Let's go back to the scriptures to see what we're talking about. Verse 25, though the rain comes in torrents and the flood waters rise and the winds beat against the house, it won't collapse because it is built on bedrock. But anyone who hears my teachings and does not obey it is foolish. Why? Like a person who builds a house on sand. When the rains and the floods and the winds beat against the house, it will collapse with a mighty crash. Our marriages and relationships are crashing at the sight of storm and rains and floods and issues and problems and circumstance. Why? Because it's not built on solid rock. In a marriage filled with God's love, the husband and the wife will hold each other accountable. That's what it means by love rejoices in truth. You're going to hold each other accountable to do what is right, to do what is just, to do what is true, and will motivate each other to do good works through sincere love. You're not going to overlook your spouse or your significant other doing wrong things or wrongdoings or evil, right? You're not going to display evil, right? You're not going to allow it to continuously happen. You're going to hold each other accountable. You're not going to overlook wrongdoings or evil displayed by each other. You're not going to do that. Why? Because love rejoices in truth, and truth is built on God. God is truth, and our marriages and relationships must be built on truth. So we're gonna hold each other accountable for the things we do that are wrong, that are evil, the things we say. Why? Because that's what marriage is. We're one. We hold each other accountable. We hold each other to growth and maturity and development, and we push each other. We won't put the relationship or marriage in jeopardy of being destroyed, nor will we put the family in danger of being broken. This goes back to what I was saying about people who deal drugs or do illegal activity or do illegal things with money or do things that jeopardize their family. Why would you risk your family being broken or split? A marriage built on God wouldn't allow a spouse to get caught up in evil things, especially if those decisions bring harm and danger to the home and the family and the kids, etc. Right? People who like to cheat, people who love to step out. Why would you put your family in danger? Why would you put your home at risk? That's not truth. That's not building your marriage in truth and on truth, because truth is what we rejoice about. Truth meaning anything that is not evil, we rejoice in that. Cheating is evil. Infidelity is evil. Anything that will break or destroy the family or create generations of brokenness is evil. We don't rejoice in that. We need to hold each other accountable in our communities. Men, you need to hold men accountable. Women, you need to hold women accountable. Healthy, thriving, successful relationships happen when a husband and a wife are building their marriage and maintaining their marriage on the words and principles of God. Love allows a relationship to live. Love does. That's what we've talked about the last 9 weeks. Love allows a marriage and a relationship to live and not die. True love, not Hollywood love, not television love, but true love. Love is all about honesty. Love is all about truth. Love is all about remaining transparent with each other. Love is about always telling each other the truth as well as being honest. Now, those are two different things. You can tell a truth and still lie and be dishonest. But honesty and truth go hand in hand. You must be able to be honest, which is avoid all deceit, and also tell the truth beyond just one fact. That's what marriage is built on. That's what it means to have love in your marriage. You don't risk your marriage and your relationship by lying about silly things, or lying about things you messed up on, or lying about things you made a decision on. You need to own up to your responsibilities, hold yourself accountable, and see how strong your marriage really is. See what it's really built on. Love is all about never putting your marriage and relationship in a position to lose trust, or a lack of trust, or truth and honesty. You need to build and keep your marriage and relationship trust built and centered and truth centered. It must remain trust built and truth centered. Again, it must remain trust built and truth centered. Now let's conclude. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 7. It's a powerful way to end this. Let's look at verse 7. In the Amplified, it says, love bears all things, regardless of what comes. Love believes all things, looking for the best in each one. Love hopes all things, remaining steadfast during difficult times. Love endures all things without weakening. Love never fails. It never fades nor ends. The New Living Translation says it like this. Love never gives up. Love never loses faith. It's always hopeful. Love endures through every circumstance. So when you put all of this together, love never gives up and it bears all things regardless of what comes. What does that mean? Well, the word bear means to protect, to cover. Another part of that definition, it says to cover with silence. So you must protect your marriage and relationship. That's what it's telling you. Well, that's how we're going to apply the principle. Love bears all things. So bear means to protect, right? So we're going to protect our marriage and relationship. We're going to stop talking about it so loosely. We're going to stop speaking negatively about it. We're going to keep things private. You need to take private things to certified, trusted counsel, not your homegirl around the corner. You need to be able to speak about your marriage around trusted counsel, whether that is a confidant or counselors or a pastor or close friends, people you can trust that can give you sound wisdom, sound encouragement, that does not encourage breakups and divorce. The word also means to conceal the errors and faults of your spouse. People don't need to know each other's mistakes. You don't need to go talking to everybody around the world about everything your spouse did wrong or everything they do wrong. Unless your life is threatened or your well-being is at stake, then that's different. Then you need to tell somebody. But bear also means to protect against anything that will bring danger to your marriage and your relationship. You must protect your marriage and your relationship. Then the verse goes on to say, love never loses faith, but continues to believe all things, looking for the best in each person. Are you truly looking for the best in the person you're with? Or is all you see is the bad and the negative? Like, are you really looking for the best? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. If you're not married and you are having a hard time finding anything good, why are you still there? What are you doing? Just stop wasting time. Those who are married, you might be in a rough patch right now, and you are finding it hard to find something good. Go back to the beginning of what you got with the person in the first place for, and work your way back to the present. You have to get into a mode where, because remember, the same way you got into your negative mode based on situations and circumstances is the same way you're going to get out of that mode. Okay, you're going to have to remember the good times, remember the great times, and stop putting so much emphasis on the bad. And if the bad really outweighs the good, then you need to file for a separation for a temporary period of time, and then in due season come back together. Love never loses faith. Don't lose faith in the person that you decided to spend your life with. There's a reason you stepped into it. Now, if you were one of those people where nobody could tell you anything, when they told you this is a bad idea, you just got to deal with it. You have to figure out what you're going to do next, because you would not listen, and that's your hard-headed self. That's your prideful self. You wanted it so bad that you were blind to truth that was in front of you the whole time. You got to live up to that. So either you're going to make a decision and work through it, or you're going to make a decision to separate. Or if you're not married, break up. Okay? Because you would not listen in the beginning. And that's a lot of people that's in that situation. Couldn't nobody tell you nothing in the beginning. So you got to deal with the consequences. But love is always looking for the best in each person. Love is always hopeful, always remains faithful, dependable, loyal, reliable, dedicated, devoted during the difficult times. Let's break that down. Love is always hopeful. What if we translated that principle into our marriages and our relations? What if you always was hopeful about the future? What if you were always hopeful in the present? What if you were so hopeful that your negative space don't have room to creep in? What if you were so hopeful that your negative words don't have any place? And then it goes on to say in the verse, in the Amplified version and the New Living Combined, love is always faithful and dependable. You must be a dependable spouse. You must be a man and woman of your word. You must line up your behavior with what you say. Be a man and woman of your word, because you must be faithful and dependable. Faithful. Stop. No cheating. Like we just need to deal with this. No cheating. No emotional cheating. No physical cheating. No putting yourself out there to potentially cheat. We have to safeguard our marriages by safeguarding ourselves as individuals. Guard your heart. Understand that all your friends might not put you in the best situation to be successful as a married individual, or as a person who's in a relationship looking to get engaged and get married. Love is loyal. That's self-explanatory. But let's explain it for a quick second. Loyalty is powerful. There's a loyalty not just to the person, but to the character of who you want to be. Hold yourself accountable to your loyalty and your honesty and your trust and your truth and your character and your makeup and your decision making. Remain loyal to the person you made a commitment to by remaining loyal to your own principles as well and your own morals through God. Love is reliable. Love is dedicated. Love is devoted during the difficult times. When things get tough, you have to gird yourself up and build yourself up through the grace of God to understand that you can't run when times get difficult. You can't complain when times get difficult. You can't start destroying the marriage and the relationship just because it's getting difficult. You got to stand firm-footed in your marriage and in your relationship and understand that difficult times come, but also be aware that you must play a part in preventing some of those difficult times. You don't got to argue over everything. Everything don't got to be a problem. Why don't you find some time to be content with your situation and stop trying to find something new or find something greater or find something funner or find somewhere else to go or somewhere else to be? Why don't you find time to be grateful and thankful for where you are? Stop putting pressure on your marriage and your relationship, trying to appease some new fetish or some new fantasy or some new thing that you see and want. You are not a child. Remain loyal and dedicated and devoted to the person you made a commitment to through the difficult times. Difficult times such as financial hardships. Don't jump ship, try to find somebody who got money just because you and your person is going through a difficult time. Just because somebody's going through some depression or some loneliness or some family issues, you run into somebody else because you can't deal with it. But let me say this in case somebody is deciding to do that. If you're with somebody who's doing that, you need to see the signs and make a decision, because that might not be a person you want to be with in the first place. And I'm going to let that sit right there. Love endures through all things in every circumstance without weakening. That word endure means remain. Love remains through all things. That kind of goes in line with what we just talked about. If you're looking to get married, you must be willing to remain during times even when it seems impossible. Now, let me clarify this. If you are being cheated on and you want to divorce and walk away, you have every right to. Okay? A lot of things when we talk about remaining, what I'm really talking about is through those seasons where it's not as easy and it's not as fun. Okay? You don't decide to spend your life with somebody because it's always going to be fun or it's always going to be easy or it's always going to be right. But I do believe 99% of the time can be great. I firmly believe that. I believe you can minimize your hard times. I believe you can minimize your struggles. But when they come, deal with them together. Remember, 2 is better than 1. Remember, they can help each other. Ecclesiastes, remember that? So as we conclude tonight, these last 9 weeks have been amazing. Hopefully you've learned something. But here's what I want to leave you with. Remember, love is a gift. Remember, relationships are a gift. Relationships die without love. And I want to end with this quote that I came up with. Amen. Love never fails. People fail to love. Love y'all. Appreciate you all for tuning in. See you all next week for a separate subject on Marriage and Relationship Wednesday. See y'all later.